name is Barry Overton, and I am a supporter of the Better Than Average Academy. I was actually introduced to this program by Mr. Jonathan McMillan, who's a good friend of mine and also the founder of the Better Than Average Academy. When I was able to sit down with him and see the lesson plan of what he was putting together, I got excited because I understood that once he reaches out to people, he is going to touch so many people, whether it's our millennials, our Gen Xers, our baby boomers even, can be touched by this information and understanding that better than average is where we should all be thinking to live a life of greatness, because we were put on this earth with a purpose, and part of that purpose is living in your greatness, whatever that may be. And the proof has been around us for centuries. When you think about all the inventions, when you think about all the great leaders, when you think about all the great athletes that have been on this planet, they lived in their greatness. They weren't born with any special talents. They just understood that they had a seed of greatness inside of them. And at some point in their life, they started nurturing and growing that seed, and understanding that you also have that seed of greatness inside of you. The fertilizer is the information that you'll get from Jonathan in the Better Than Average Academy. So people have often asked, what do you mean when you say I am better than average? First and foremost, I'm not saying, and we're not saying that we're better than anyone. We're simply saying that we won't settle for average, as no one should, because we were not created. Man was not created to be average. Man was not created to just settle. And you can see through history that there's so many, great people that have walked this earth that lived much beyond average. And there was nothing different about them. They didn't have anything in their DNA. They didn't have a different strand than any of the other people on the planet. It was just that they tapped into that seed of greatness that lied within inside of them. And one thing that, as I've been on this journey of reaching for my greatness, I've learned that one of the biggest things that comes to mind for me is a quote that talks about God's gift to us was life. Our gift to God is how we live that life. So that becomes very important to me when I understand that what I do now is for the purpose of a higher being, and creating something that lives beyond my time on this planet. In regards to that also, I think about, so many different quotes of greats that have lived. Mark Twain just being an example of one, and he has a quote where he says, the two most important days in your life are the day that you were born and the day that you find out why. That again is also one of those indications to me that greatness is our destiny. And living average does not allow us to tap into that greatness. Part of being able to tap into those things is a big part is what I believe in is personal development. One thing that I've learned in regards to personal development is positive affirmations. And if you think about when you were a kid and you thought about if you wanted to be a football player, you wanted to be a doctor, if you wanted to be a nurse, again, you said those things over and over and over, and you believed them. It was at some point in your life you allowed negative people to have control over your thinking that slowly took away that affirmation. But when you have a positive affirmation and it becomes a deep conviction, no one can ever break you from what it is that you believe in. We're even taught that in children's stories. If you remember the little engine that could, they taught us that at 3, 4, 5 years old to let us know positive affirmations work. And if you believe, you can achieve. And if you remember the story, I won't go through the whole thing, but just thinking about that story, it talks about this little engine that took the mail from one town over the mountain to another town. It did that every day, but it was only responsible for the mail. But the big engine that carried all the cargo needed for the city to survive on the other side of the mountain, the food and the water and all the things that they needed for essential survival, were carried by the big engine. Well, one day the big engine stopped working, and the big engine saw the little engine coming back over the mountain and said, "I need your help. I gotta get this cargo over the mountain." And the little engine had never carried anything other than the mail, let alone an entire big engine. But he believed, and they hooked up, and he started his journey over the mountain. And he said, "I think I can. I think I can." 3 little words that he continued to say. It was a positive affirmation. And he continued up the mountain, over the mountain, and down the mountain. And as he was going down the mountain, he said, "I knew I could. I knew I could." But again, it started with a belief, a positive affirmation that turned into a belief, that turned it into a deep conviction. And it's through positive affirmations that so many people have succeeded in this life that we have now, by believing in the words that they were saying and not allowing other people to break the barrier of their belief. But the beauty of it is now that we don't have to live in the world of the fairy tale stories and believing that the little engine that could, so we can as well. Because now there are so many stories throughout history of people that have overcome, adversity and illness and different things in life to achieve their goals. So many people that just simply believe. They started by saying, "I think I can." And they believed that they could, and it became a deep conviction, which then became a reality for them. One of my biggest heroes of life is Muhammad Ali. And one of his quotes that not many people know, you know a lot of the boxing quotes, but not many people know a quote that he talked about: "The repetition of affirmations leads to belief." And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. And I always took that quote and I understood what he meant by it, because I thought back, when you understand that before he had ever won a championship belt in boxing, he referred to himself as the greatest of all times. When he won his first belt, he predicted he was going to knock out Sonny Liston, and he did. That was an affirmation. A lot of people think of it as a bold prediction that he's making, but you have to remember, the mindset that he was in, most of the world was not really understanding where he was coming from. But he believed everything that he said. And it was just as once he won that title, once again, he said, "I am the greatest. I shook up the world." Even when he fought, he had this period of time where he was out of boxing. He came back and he fought for the championship once again against George Foreman, who at the time was considered to be the baddest man on the planet. Someone that they thought Muhammad Ali would die in the ring fighting George Foreman because of how he destroyed all of his other opponents. But he said in a press conference, "I know you got him picked, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to beat him. I'm going to knock him out. I'm going to show you how great I am." And that's exactly what he did. And again, if you think now, you fast forward to 2016, and if I use the words, "the greatest of all time," that's all I have to say. And immediately to the mind of the world comes Muhammad Ali. He believed it. It became a deep, deep conviction. It became reality. And now the world believes it. So that's the power of affirmations. I guarantee you that Bill Gates, when he first started out and he dropped out of Harvard Business School, he had affirmations of what he was going to do. Steve Jobs, when he dropped out of college after only 6 months of being in school, he had affirmations of the greatness that he was going to do. So you can see the key is having affirmations, believing those affirmations, and doing whatever it takes on a daily basis to make those affirmations become a reality. My name is Barry Overton, entrepreneur, and I am better than average. Ah!